Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing our deep dive into this Florida Gators program heading into spring practice, fall camp, the 2024 season. We took a look at the offensive line, the defensive line, the offensive skill positions. Now we're taking a look at the back end of this Florida Gators defense, the secondary, also going to throw in that linebacker room. And you look at this program in 2023, and I think Billy Napier took a look at this team and said, this is one of those units that needs to take a step in 2024. And I think what excites the Florida Gator fans the most is not only did he add a ton of personnel in the transfer portal that we're going to get into, I'm extremely excited about, also goes to the coaching staff, brings in Will Harris, brings in Ron Roberts to coach the defense and those linebackers. And Ron Roberts was one of the more sneaky, under the radar hires in all of college football that I think could mean massive things for this Florida Gators program heading into 2024. You look at that fit. Austin Armstrong, an extremely young defensive coordinator that I think has an extremely bright future, but you saw him go through some growing pains in 2023 with a really young Florida Gators defense. You bring in Ron Roberts with a wealth of experience, a defensive coach that I think has a phenomenal mind for the game, kind of mentoring Austin Armstrong on that defensive side of the football. If you're a Florida Gators fan, you're looking at this position group. One, you have a lot of young talent that went through some growing pains in 2023 that's probably going to take that step in 2024. You brought in a lot of personnel in the transfer portal that I think is going to help the depth and talent level of this group. And then you combine it with the new coaching staff. A lot of reasons to feel like this group takes a step in 2024. Want to do two things. One, talk about what we saw from this Florida Gators defense in 2023 after going back and watching some film, looking at some numbers, and then taking a look at what this unit is going to look like in 2024. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys, and it has been an absolute blast for me for doing all these deep dives, the amount of input, the amount of feedback that you guys have shared. I've learned a ton. We've had some phenomenal conversations in the comment section. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown. If y'all do enjoy the content, one, consider subscribing to the channel. That helps the boys out in a meaningful way. But more importantly, let me know in the comment section, breakout players, what you think this unit is going to look like in 2024. We'll chop it up in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this unit. I want to start with what we saw in 2023 and the biggest talking point. And for the Florida Gator fans that have been listening for a while, you probably know what I'm going to say, and that is tackling. And it's so easy to talk about personnel and talk about scheme and kind of just tackling. The fundamentals of the sport maybe flies under the radar a little bit. You look at where this unit struggled the most, it was making plays in open space. And you look at that Michigan defense in 2023 and said, what made that Michigan team so solid on defense to win a national championship? They were phenomenal at making plays in space and tackling the ball carrier, right? Michigan only missed 89 tackles all season, playing 15 games. You look at the Florida Gators numbers, 116 missed tackles in only 12 games. And so, yeah, the numbers for sure back it up. But the Florida Gator fans that are listening to this and watch every Saturday, no doubt knew that was a problem for this unit. Another kind of key number that I was looking at kind of prepping this one out is Florida only gave up 2,700 receiving yards in the 2023 season. Over 1,500 of those yards came after the catch. So again, just more information kind of providing that picture where, this Florida Gators team, yes, were there problems in coverage? We'll talk about those. But the crux of the issue for this Florida Gators defense was just not making those plays in space. And you saw a 10-yard pass turn into a 40-yard pass really quick because of a key missed tackle. Those are the type of plays that cost you games, and those are the type of things that if Florida cleans up in 2024, that's going to mean massive things for this Florida Gators defense. Guys like Scooby Williams missing 23% of their tackles is just not good enough in that 2023 year. Needs to get improved in 2024. Now, the more exciting conversation is getting into what this unit is going to look like in 2024. And I want to start with that linebacker room. And again, for the Florida Gator fans that have been listening for a long time, this is a unit, excuse me, that I am extremely excited about, not only for the 2024 year, but I think this unit is going to be a strength of this program for the next couple of years. And you look at what they have in 2024, I think it starts with Shamar James kind of flew under the radar. I would argue he was the best Florida Gators player on defense in that 2023 year before getting banged up. I mean, sideline to sideline, making plays behind the line of scrimmage. He was so impactful to this defense. And then when you saw him get banged up and miss some time, you really felt his presence being absent. And then you bring in a guy in Pup Howard, who, again, somebody that I am extremely excited about. Thought he should have played more as a true freshman at South Carolina. A guy that is still learning the game at the college football level. But one thing you cannot teach is the physical traits that he brings to the table. So you have Shamar James, Pup Howard as probably your starting linebackers heading into 2024, a unit that, I mean, Shamar James, I think, is a stud. Pup Howard, I think, is an emerging star. I mean, that is a really strong unit in my mind for this team. You have Derek Wingo, and then you have true freshman Miles Grahams and Aiden Childs, who, I mean, I like Pup Howard and Shamar James. I think they play a lot of football. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Miles Graham or Aiden Childs find their way onto the football field in that 2024 year, and it's all being coached by Ron Roberts, who, again, I think is a phenomenal hire for this Florida Gators defense. The linebacker room has been a problem for Florida at times over the last couple of years. I view this position group as potentially being a strength for this program heading into 2024. Really excited about the starters they have, but really excited about the young depth that they have coming up as well. And you look back to the secondary, and this is probably where the unit that you want to see the most strides from. And I want to start you miss some guys in the transfer portal. I don't think many Florida Gator fans are looking at guys like Jalen Kimber transferring out of the program as necessarily being a bad thing. I mean, let's just paint it as it is. These guys were not unreplaceable starters for the Florida Gators defense in 2023. Now, I want to talk about a guy that I've talked about a ton and a guy that I'm excited about. I know this is kind of a hot topic for a lot of Florida Gator fans, and that is Jason Marshall. I mean, 12 months ago, we were talking about Jason Marshall potentially being a first-round NFL draft pick in that 2024 NFL draft. He obviously does not have the season that many Florida Gator fans expected from him in that 2023 year. He comes back for his senior year. Looking at the numbers, I think Jason Marshall kind of gets, in my mind, maybe a little unfairly criticized for his play in 2023, was targeted 38 times, only gave up 17 catches. That's a 44% completion percentage. We know Jason Marshall has all the traits of being an elite cornerback at the SEC level. Again, there's a reason why many people were talking about Jason Marshall as being a first-round NFL draft pick. Now, I think the problem is, and it certainly needs to get cleaned up, this is not me getting up here and defending Jason Marshall. The explosive plays were such a problem for Jason Marshall in coverage. And I think that's why he gets all that criticism, because when you see some of those explosive plays that happened against this Florida Gators defense, Jason Marshall was in coverage. He gave up 24 yards per catch. That number is way, way too high. And so you look at Jason Marshall, I think on a down-to-down base, actually a better cornerback than I think a lot of people gave him credit. But giving up those big plays, it really highlights him, puts some red sirens on him, not playing good enough football. If Jason Marshall can clean that up, just be a little bit more consistent, I think you might have a very good cornerback in Jason Marshall. I'm excited that he decided to stay in this program and try to get developed for that one more year. I think Will Harris can do some really good things with Jason Marshall. If he can kind of reach that potential, you're looking at a true cornerback one in the SEC. And we'll see if that happens. He has some things to clean up, and I'm excited about him. You look at a guy like Devin Moore, I thought really flashed at times for the Florida Gators in 2023. Long, athletic. He tackled relatively well for the Florida Gators defense. I'm excited about him. You add a guy like Triquez Bridges that I think is really just coming in and stimulating some competition. Now, there's some talk that Triquez Bridges maybe plays a safety role. I like Triquez Bridges as a cornerback. I think he can be a very good boundary cornerback with the athleticism and the length that he has. That's one of those players that I kind of have highlighted as, let's see where they're using him in the back end. I trust Ron Roberts. I trust Will Harris and Austin Armstrong to get Triquez Bridges in that best position possible where he can impact this team. You have a guy like Jakeem Jackson, who I am excited about in terms of what he can do. And then Jameer Grimsley, as a late addition to the 2024 class, another guy that I think adds some depth and a really, really high floor, or high ceiling, I should say, to this Florida Gators cornerback room. You have some good competition. I think you have a lot of players that can really take some steps in 2024. Now it's about getting those players to take those steps. Now, you look at the star position. I think you're bringing DJ Douglas to play that star. I think he is perfectly fit for what Austin Armstrong wants to do with that star position, a guy that thrives being around the line of scrimmage, getting behind the line of scrimmage, making tackles in space. That's a position that I think DJ Douglas committed to Florida to go and play. Now, he might play in the back end. We'll see, but I think he can be a really good star for the Florida Gators. And I wouldn't rule out a guy like Greg Smith. Again, a true freshman, a young cat, but we saw Billy Napier, one, not afraid to play true freshman, and two, has had some success playing some true freshmen in the past. Now, I look at Jordan Castile, a guy we'll talk about in a little bit, as having some success for the Florida Gators as a true freshman. Greg Smith, a guy that I think went under the radar during his high school recruitment, probably could be potentially an impact player for the Florida Gators at that star position. You look at the safety spot, and I think it starts with you had a really young group in 2023, right? Jordan Castile, a true freshman, getting a ton of playing time for that Florida Gators defense. I think Billy Napier looked at that position and said, at the very least, let's go add some depth and some experience at that safety position. I don't think RJ Moten's going to play much for the Florida Gators, but Asa Turner is a guy that's played a ton of football for a team that just played for a national championship. And at the very least, Asa Turner comes in and gives you a really high floor for what the Florida Gators have in that back end. And if you're Jordan Castile, if you're Bryce Thornton, you have to be great to beat out a guy like Asa Turner to get some starting reps at that safety position. So you have Jordan Castile. You have a guy like Bryce Thornton that I think you're really excited about the future that they might have. And then you bring in a guy like Asa Turner, who I think is a guy that gives you a lot of veteran presence in that back end. And I think one thing that I'll kind of comment on is the versatility. A lot of these guys, I mean, a guy like Jordan Castile certainly could come in and play that star position. It gives Austin Armstrong, Will Harris, Ron Roberts that ability to kind of get creative in terms of starting your best players and getting your best players on the football field, right? So you look at a guy like Jordan Castile or DJ Douglas, say you want them both on the field, you can play them at a lot of different positions and making sure you're getting the best players on that football field for Florida in 2024. There's a lot of versatility. It's combined with a lot of young talent that you're excited about taking that step. And then we're adding some veteran experience that kind of gives you that high floor of this position group. I think it was a really nice job by Billy Napier building out this unit. I'm going to be extremely excited to kind of read the spring practice notes and take a look at where people are playing, who's getting a lot of work, because it's a unit that's a lot of new faces. It's a new coaching staff. It's a lot of young talent, but I think it's a unit that could take some steps in 2024. Obviously, tackling going to be a priority for the Florida Gators. Really excited about this unit. We'll continue to monitor it, talk about it, see what spring practice and see how spring practice plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.